The Bulk Boys podcast was founded on the principle of a caloric surplus. And I think we both have to hold ourselves accountable. If you're tuning
Mhm.
in and you are not in a caloric surplus, rip out your headphones. Get the fuck out.
Since I am not a representative of Albuquerque public schools right now, I'm just gonna say this.
Let's
They
do
have
it.
some of the dumbest fucking rules for powerlifting I've ever seen.
There's like two eyes, I feel like,
No, it's
creepily
just a bunch of
staring.
circles.
We do need to talk about your prep and how that's going.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess since it's like very fresh in my mind to the point where my mind's a little bit blank actually. Um, so I don't know where we might have left off last time, but so in all, I think this is going to be a 4 training week adventure. So week one I did 245 for 20 and then a back down set, same weight, but it was 13 reps. Week after that, 265, so 20-pound jump. First set, 20 reps. Second set, is that the cat? Sorry, I'm
This
like
is the cat. Oh, absolutely, dude.
the
She's got
Gaines
to make a
Goblin.
cameo. The
Yeah.
Gaines Goblin, no. Oh, she's not very happy.
Yeah.
Not happy with it. She's acting like she wanted to hear you. Sorry, but okay. So you did
You're good. No.
245 for
Yeah.
20 and then
So, and then it's basically just doing that. So 245, 265. About 45 minutes ago was 285, and 285 feels significantly better than the last 2 weeks.
nice.
So I'm pretty much on track. The only thing is I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that sponsorship I was possibly looking at from the
Okay.
Breaking the Silence. They're the suicide prevention nonprofit that I've been talking to a little bit. But I might just go out and buy one of their shirts anyway because I believe in their
Why not?
message. So
Yeah, good cause. Yeah.
so but honestly, it's kind of weird. I'm almost gonna feel a little weird stopping at 300 because it's like newbie gains. It's all just coming on so
Dude.
fast that I'm like, I want to kind of want to keep going, but I
Yeah.
also hate like literally it's the most mentally challenging thing I might have done in the gym is those sets
Wow.
of
It's
people.
to that level. And you were
Yeah.
doing those 20s with Pete Rubish too at like the end of a workout, right?
It was a beginning. So
Oh, okay.
basically the same progression actually, where it would be
Yeah.
like a set of 20 and then a set of like between 10 and 15 as a back down.
Are
And
you doing
the yeah. No, just
are
the
you
only difference was he would have me doing them like high bar and no sleeves, whereas now I'm trying to actually push the weight. So
right?
I've got a belt on and sleeves and I'm doing low bar. So
Nice. How do your shoulders and elbows feel having the bar on your back for that long?
you know what? Today was the first time I actually felt that it was a little bit off.
Yeah.
Normally I'm pretty okay with the mobility of my upper body with squats. The only time I had an issue with that was before I switched to like a thumbless grip. So before obviously I'm taking a full grip and
Hmm.
then I just put my thumb around the bar, same direction as the rest of my fingers. And that alleviated a lot of the wrist pressure. A lot of people have, not a lot of people, a couple of people have been like, "Hey, why aren't your arms in line with your torso?" Because that's like the dogma, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, it's just not. I mean, if I try to do that, I just end up with wrist pain. So like, why am I gonna
Yeah.
force myself into a position? So
Yeah. The starting strength, like low bar position, kind of looks like you're impersonating like some prehistoric bird of prey. It's like kind of like your talons over and
yeah,
your
yeah.
elbows
Actually,
are pointing back.
that's
Yeah.
kind of how I squat a little bit. Like
Really? Okay.
my low. It's not like it's probably not to that degree,
Yeah.
but it's. I mean, they're definitely. It's noticeably not in line with my torso.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
I think a lot of the reason people do that is to try and get the back tightness. But if you just think about it as like pulling your shoulder blades back and down, almost like a bench press, it's going to do the same thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's just if you have the kind of awareness and actually the upper back development to support the bar, you totally don't need to, yeah, you don't need to jack your grip way into your shoulders and shit. I think, to
Hmm.
get that shelf. But we'll
Yeah, no,
see.
I completely agree. I also I think Sam Sheether, it might have been in your podcast with him actually, brought up
Yeah, he
that
was talking about that.
the closer grip is just because it makes your upper back tightness automatic, but you can stick your
Right.
hands wider, and as long as you're consciously thinking about it, you can pinch your back together. I think Ed Cohen says something that he would get like all of his back muscles and try to like squeeze them together along his spine. So I think about that sometimes too. I don't know. I'm kind of inconsistent with the squat cues, if I'm honest with you.
Really? Do you,
Yeah.
but your like your positioning and your setup is consistent, right? It's just what you're thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah,
Gotcha.
I would say it's consistent. The only inconsistent thing that I'm still kind of running into is actually my stance width because I went on this adventure in December where I was moving my stance out, sitting back more. And I'm still moving my stance out more and it just feels better and better, so I don't know why I'm gonna stop. I mean, I'm at the point where my
Yeah.
toes are almost touching the sides of the rack.
Oh man,
So,
you're doing the Dave Tate. You're gonna be
yeah.
like upright box squatting soon.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, right? Because like you'd think, short torsoed people relative to their leg length tend to be a little more okay getting pitched over because they've
Mhm.
got less actual moment arm on their spine.
Right.
But for me, when I put my feet wider, it helps me stay more upright. So I don't really know what's going on there, but it feels a
Interesting.
lot better. So and I'm the bar's moving faster, so I can't really I'm not gonna stop.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's it. Oh, the only cue you need is kind of what your feet, the sensation. You don't necessarily need
Mm.
to be able to articulate it to yourself, right? Like, oh, my, vastus lateralis is tracking toward my, like middle
Yeah.
toe or whatever. It's not
Yeah,
squat
there's
university.
what's funny is in lifting is the only discipline I've ever seen where people are that specific with the cueing, where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
your knee has to be doing. Nah, 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 nah. In all other sports, you're thinking about something kind of um broad. You're thinking about something very broad and kind of like not super specific because
Mhm.
when you get that specific, people tend to trip themselves up.
Right.
So like for example, I remember in football, it was they say like low man wins. So you're thinking low man wins. You're not
Uh,
thinking, oh, my shoulder pads have to be at this guy's chest level or else
right.
I'm going to lose my leverage. You're
Yeah.
thinking low man wins. So I try to apply that where I can with lifting as well because I find that I mean people naturally are going to try to coordinate themselves in a way that's most advantageous to their build.
Mhm.
So if you try to like, square peg and round hole, doesn't really work a lot of times.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I wonder if some of that is carryover from bodybuilding, like all of the kind of anatomical cueing, like muscle specific, because I could see someone who has a bodybuilding background and the mind muscle connection responding to that better than somebody who just is coming out of a football weight room and doing their first powerlifting meet, right? Where it's like, dude, I was just doing hang cleans. I wasn't thinking about like activating my, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. No, I hadn't
traps
even
or something.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. That's a really good point, though, that it
Yeah.
probably does come from the bodybuilding background.
So for you, you did 285 is the next jump. Are you doing 300 next?
Yeah, so a week from today will be 300 for 20,
Awesome. Yeah.
and I'm gonna I've already been figuring out the lighting in the garage, so
Oh,
like
perfect.
I'm gonna have everything as good as I can get it because this is gonna be the only lifting post that goes on like my private social media, with
Oh,
like with my
cool.
family and stuff.
Yeah.
So because for the most part they don't really interact with my lifting stuff, not for any reason other than I just don't think they're that interested,
Mhm.
which is fine. Um, but I feel like the message means a lot, and it's just going to be my way of being able to present that message in a way that's meaningful to me.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's true. It's truly honoring your friend to be willing to go through that amount of discomfort,
Yeah.
to commemorate
Yeah.
him. So
But also, like when we're talking about heavy topics like, like suicide, there's a lot of discomfort going on with that.
that's
And
true.
so,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you've probably had your mental health struggles, having been a college kid after the year 2000, with social media and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously I've had my whole thing, and being under the bar for a minute and a half, like, yeah, while it's happening, all you can think is, God, I want to re-rack this. But it is kind of freeing knowing that, you can put once you put that bar down, you're done.
Right.
For someone who's that severely depressed, they can't just put the bar down and make it disappear.
That's true. Yeah, there's no re-rack in life.
Yeah,
That's
there's
for
no
sure.
re-rack in life, that's for sure.
Yeah.
God, I would have re-racked that shit a long time ago.
Quality shirt, by the way.
Oh
It's
yeah.
yeah.
This is a relic for everyone watching, from Furious Pete. He was like a eating channel, I guess, like a
Yeah.
competitive eater. You probably know.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Been on them power casts, man, with Mark Bell.
oh, was he really?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
way back.
Yeah. That was probably like right when I got into lifting. And I thought
Okay.
this was just so funny that I got it. And then my shoulders got too broad for the size that I
Uh,
was. So I was just like, fuck it, I'm cutting the sleeves off because I'm not gonna like give this away.
yeah, well, dude, I was gonna say you're looking fucking broad right now.
Thank you. Yeah. I've been hitting those upright rows, hitting the
Nice.
I don't know. Actually, this is kind of weird. The last two, I guess now into 3 weeks of training, besides my legs, I haven't been sore at all.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe that's just because I'm training like a bitch on my upper body, but like,
Yeah.
because usually the first week you're back at least, you're hurting.
Yeah.
And my legs were hurting, but my upper body, I mean, I might have been a little bit sore here and there, but the most sore thing I've experienced actually is my forearm, and that's because I'm trying to get back from this elbow thing, and I've come upon this discovery that my left-handed grip is actually way weaker than it ever was. Like it was
Oh,
probably
wow.
weaker at the start of this training cycle. It was probably weaker than it was when I got into lifting.
That's
So,
crazy.
so which is probably why there's so much elbow discomfort is
Yeah.
because my forearm literally can't support what it needs to.
Yeah.
So, I'm doing a lot of like one-handed dead hangs, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah, that'll light up your forearm,
yeah.
And
Well, yeah, and go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, and I know you've been doing
Mhm.
the dedicated wrist curls too, like the straight up dumbbell. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've gotten to a point now where the wrist curls don't actually. I'm using like a 40-pound dumbbell, and it's like even if I'm doing perfect technique where my arm is completely locked and it's supported on the makeshift preacher curl that I have,
Yeah.
um, it like I mean it does something to my forearm, but it wasn't like when I was first starting to do them and it would give me like a
Yeah.
huge pump and it'd feel real
Yeah.
relieving. So now, I mean, as heavy as I am, those single hand dead hangs are pretty rough on the forearm, like in a good way.
Yeah.
So, but the grip is coming back very fast. So when I was first playing with the single arm dead hangs, I could probably hold on to the bar for 3 or 4 seconds before my grip started to slip. And now I'm consistently able to do like 7 or 8 seconds, and that's after like 2 weeks.
Wow.
So
Yeah. I mean, it's not apples to apples, but I mean,
mhm.
you could get yourself into the mindset where that's like double overhanding 500, right? If you're
Yeah,
weighing 250 or 240, right? It's
yeah,
like
yeah, exactly.
one-handed dead hang for
Yeah,
eight
well, that's
seconds.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking about. Is I'm like, man, I'm 240 or whatever the hell I weigh. I haven't stepped on a scale and probably since I left Illinois.
Yeah.
Um, and I like I'm just thinking about it, and I'm like, you know, even though the bar isn't rotating or anything, that's probably like pretty comparable to like a 200-pound barbell in one hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Ed Cohen would do the one-handed barbell holds. He'd like
Mhm.
load it in a squat rack, off the pins, and he'd kind of, this like a
Yeah,
suitcase hold
yeah,
almost.
it's a great
Yeah.
exercise. I've done it before. I don't know why I haven't implemented it here. It might just be because mentally I'm too much of a basket case to just sit there and stand like and just
Yeah.
wait. The hanging, at least, it's like kind of fun because like I'm also playing this mini game of trying not to like spin while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm like kicking the rack, and shit, trying to like keep myself from spinning out of my own grip. But as far as like oblique training, I actually love suitcase carries,
Yeah.
and also it definitely helps the grip a lot. I mean, Larry Wheels did that leading into his last all-time world record powerlifting total. Was
Wow.
he would get I think it wasn't like a barbell, it was a farmer's handle, and he would just carry it like down and back at the gym at the end
Yeah.
of his workout.
Yeah, we got a couple farmers handles at Cap City, and I've been thinking I should probably get on them after I deadlift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My experience with farmers is that it is surprisingly, how do I say this? Unimpressive to most people watching. But when you know farmers, it's impressive because as soon
Yeah.
as you get some weight on that, it's smacking into your legs and it's just so uncomfortable. But
Yeah, the
yeah.
oscillation of trying to walk with it, is like
Mhm.
this whole other variable that's really hard to manage. And that's lighting up all the little muscles in your forearms that there might not even, well, I'm sure there's names for them, but I don't know the
Yeah.
names for the little
Yeah.
ones.
I don't even know the
So
names
yeah,
for them.
like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna fail my anatomy exam based on that, but
Oh God.
no, I'm kidding. Yeah, well, also the traps, like the upper back, and if you've ever used like wider farmers implements, like
Mhm.
California's Strongest Man has like these red tanks basically that they use.
Yeah, I've
Um,
seen those.
it's like a lateral delt exercise because you're trying to
Wow.
keep them from running into your legs.
Yeah.
Because there's only so close you can walk forward with your legs
Right.
that
Yeah.
close, you know?
So you're kind
Um,
of doing like this side hold a little bit.
yeah, you're doing like
Yeah.
a sort of like a half lateral raise hold where you're just trying to keep it from hitting your legs. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love strongman training. It's something that I wish I had more availability like of equipment to
Yeah,
do.
you got to find a good gym. There's one here in Tallahassee, Seminole Strength, and I was training there when I first got back into lifting, and I mean they have stones, they have like a frame, a heavy frame, they have multiple logs, farmers handles, axle, uh, a lot of good stuff, and
Yeah,
oh, and they have a yoke too, so yeah,
I would kill. There's a gym like
everything.
that here in Albuquerque, but for me it's like probably a 20-minute drive away.
Oh
And
wow,
it's also like it's probably a good at this point probably $50 a month that I mean the difference is like doing a bunch of specific equipment that's fun, don't get me wrong, but it's not actually going to develop my strength that much more than what I'm already doing.
absolutely.
So,
And it's like if your priority right now is bringing up your static strength, and then potentially like displaying it within powerlifting, it just makes more sense to use that training economy with a little more specificity. Because I agree, I don't think you're gonna. I mean, the skill aspect of those movements is certainly something that needs a certain amount of time, but I don't think you're at that stage of your journey yet where you're wanting to transition into strongman.
yeah, I'm at a point where I like for a long time I kind of did this like am I a strongman? Am I a powerlifter thing? And what it did really was it made me like kind of spin my wheels
Yeah.
because I I don't know if it might just be me, but I can't like make great progress doing trying to do all of those lifts all at once.
Yes.
So, like now I've got squat as like my main lower body focus. I've got bench press as my main upper body focus. And then overhead press and deadlift are kind of going on the back burner
Mhm.
for now.
Yeah.
The only time I'm going to have more than like two lifts as a main goal is going to be like going into a powerlifting meet or going into a strongman comp.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although now I'm at a point where I'm testing the idea of like going and doing a like a middleweight strongman competition because now I'm at a point where I'm probably like I would probably take first in the novice category for the middleweights, provided some training, of course, with like Atlas
Yeah.
stones and so on. Um, but I would be probably lower middle pack of the middleweights. Like not we're talking about a local show here, not like
Yeah.
anything crazy. So, but again, it's like I'm gonna take my time away from actually developing the things that take time to develop
Right.
than,
Yeah.
just to go run around in a parking lot for a little while. Like I
Yeah.
mean, listen, it's a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, but why am I gonna like, you know what I mean? Like, why am I gonna just waste probably 2 months of my time just
Totally.
to
Yeah.
go win a plastic trophy, maybe?
Yeah.
So,
And let's say, that 2 months is you might be giving up 20 pounds of bench gains and you might be giving up 30 or 40 pounds on your squat and deadlift.
Yeah.
Given your rate of progress
Yeah.
at this point, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, until I made that video, the 5 ways to
Yeah.
skyrocket your progress, I hadn't actually thought about how much progress I'd been
Dude,
making in
so
such a
crazy.
fast amount of time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, because then I was thinking about it and I'm like, so if I took another, we'll say year,
Yeah.
because 8 months and, less newbie gains, that kind of thing.
Right.
I'm like, damn, I could be deadlifting 700 and, squatting 6 plates, benching
Yeah.
close to four, at like 270 body weight,
Yes.
but as a 21-year-old,
Yeah.
which
Dude,
is, yeah, which is a
that
very
would be
tempting
awesome.
thing. And I probably will be going down that path here pretty soon.
Full support it, man.
Yeah.
And just for the listeners, you should absolutely go and check out Jacob's recap. But I think it was 80 pounds on your deadlift. Uh, was it 70 pounds on your squat? No, it was 50.
So, okay. Okay, let me put it to you this way. So in
Yeah.
July of 2023, my maxes were a 410 squat, a two, but this wouldn't be a max, but a PR of 275 on bench, and a max of 515 on deadlift.
Mhm.
Okay. And I probably at that point I probably weighed about 206, but it was like low key starvation a little bit. Like I just wasn't
Yeah.
eating properly over the summer. Um, and then I didn't train for like 3 weeks. Um, and then so I basically got back into it in August. And so, it took me probably about a month to like regain to where I'd been. With obviously the no eating and everything, because it was like my first time under 200 pounds in a really long time.
Wow.
Um, and so basically rebounded, got back to where I was probably in like late August, early September. I hit my first PR of that journey. I announced that the start of that journey at the beginning of October with a 530 deadlift. Okay.
Yeah.
So the starting numbers, 410 squat, 275 bench, 515 deadlift in March of 2024. So I was still 20. So roughly be between 7 and 8 months later, um, 485 squat. So that's a 75-pound increase. Um, a 315 bench. So that's 40-ish pounds. And then deadlift math, 85
530
pounds.
to oh, okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, because it's 515
Just
we started. Yeah.
515. Yeah.
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 Wow. Yeah.
So
So that's
I think it was 210 pounds on the total in about, we'll say 8 months. It's
that's so
fair to say
crazy.
8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was, let's see, how many pounds had you gained in that over that course of time? Was it because you got up to like 250, right?
So I did my squat the morning of my 285 squat. I was 248 pounds, and that was the
Mhm.
heaviest I was for any of those PRs.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Um, so even though throughout that whole journey, I probably gained about 40 pounds,
Mhm.
at the time that I hit all those PRs on the squat, bench, deadlift, the 410, 275, and 515, I was about 220.
Okay, got it.
So I that's why I called it about a 25-pound
That
body
makes
weight
sense. Like
increase.
net, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that going up that high though facilitated the progress, even if you didn't hit those numbers at that high weight?
Yeah, I mean, I weighed 251. That was the heaviest I actually stepped on a scale. But to be honest with you, I felt at my strongest between 240 and like 245-ish. What happened is that I was no longer walking Penelope, the dog, every
Oh,
day as much
poor
as I was. And
Penelope.
so I
Yeah.
lost a lot of the cardio that I was getting. And so a lot of that weight was just not good weight,
Mhm.
if I'm
Mhm.
honest with you. So um I think well and truly my if I had continued that cardio, I probably would have been at my strongest around 245. The extra 3 to 6 pounds or whatever was really just a byproduct of me being lazy. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Not getting your steps in, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I actually didn't think it was that productive for my strength gain, that part of it. But
Yeah.
the first 25 pounds, I thought was extremely productive, especially on
Yeah.
bench.
Mhm.
Bench was the one that I felt like benefited the most from that because I just had, I just have long arms. Like I just a naturally skinnier guy. I just had to put on some muscle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's I mean that's something to maybe that you deserve more credit for is that when you started, you were very thin, and you have I think you have like a relatively large frame, but you were kind of scarecrowed out on that frame. Is that
yeah,
right? Like you were 140 or
yeah,
something at 6'1" or something, right?
yeah. So when I started lifting, okay, the first time I touched a weight, I was 139 pounds. But the first time I actually started lifting consistently, I was probably about 150 or 148 or
Okay.
something like that. Yeah, but you're right. And you know what's crazy is when I got to like that 250 mark, I was like, wow, I could probably gain another like 30 pounds and still feel like pretty okay. So
Yeah, doubled the body weight. Yeah.
yeah. No, and it was like it was just a really weird feeling, honestly, because I was thinking about it, and I have a one of my cousins, um, he basically he blew out his knee playing ball as you do, and he got into like recreational bodybuilding, powerlifting as like a side hustle. And so every time I see him, he's like, "How much you weigh?" I'll be like, 240, and he's like, "Why aren't you 270?" Because when he was,
That's the
because
voice you need.
I know. Well, because when he was my age, he was like he like really just hit the bulk hard when he got to
Yeah.
college. And he was I think he hit like 300 pounds when he was like 22
Wow.
or 23. And
Wow. Yeah.
he's about the same height as I am. And I'll tell you this is that he's a lot older than I am, and he started to slow down now. But before I started lifting, actually this may have been the push that got me into the gym, was I saw him and he was like, "Oh, I stopped drinking beer for a year, so I cut down a little bit." And
Uh-huh.
he was 290 with like 19-inch arms, and like they were veiny.
Oh my God.
It was
Yeah,
ridiculous. And
that's
I'm gonna
crazy.
see if I can find the picture. I'll send it to you so you can
Yeah,
show
I'll
it on
lay it
the podcast.
over. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like pre-lifting me, and I'm like, I
Uh.
mean, I'm fucking thin, and here's this like Greek god next to me, and I'm like, you know those guys where it's like, you don't seem like the kind of guy to take PEDs, but you sure as hell look like it. He's
Yeah,
kind of one of those.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, but and now he's into powerlifting, I guess, but I think that might be coming to an end. He just had a back surgery.
Oh,
So,
that's rough.
yeah. But I mean, he's been lifting now for like 25 years.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things, but so yeah, that's my influence to gain weight is
Yeah.
that I have my cousin who's like, "Did you bench 315 yet? Do you weigh 270 yet?" And I remember telling him I was like, "I'm on pace to hit 315 by like March." This was over the winter.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, that's coming up pretty quick." And I mean, I missed it. I was a week early because I hit it like toward the end of February.
Nice. Yeah.
So, yeah. It's kind of, it's funny actually because I think I've gotten to a point with beginner and intermediate lifters where as long as you're injury free and you're willing to pack on the weight, you can. I think I've got the programming secret to be able to pack a lot of strength on very fast
Yeah.
because I've just done it with myself. And so if you've got that dog in you, I can put it on paper and help you get there. So because I mean you've seen all my clients, but like after that video got posted and everything, I had a bunch of like basically like his friends being like, "Hey, I want to be competitive at state next year." And I'm like, "Listen, guys, like you can, but and like I can get you there, but you're gonna have to work your ass off, and that's the
Yeah.
secret." So it's
Yeah, I
hard.
mean, your squat and bench programs that you've posted have a tremendous amount of accessory work, and I know that for you, you aren't just kind of absent-mindedly executing that. And I think I mean, that's part of what you mean whenever you're saying you have to have that dog in you is to maintain that level of focus through all of those accessories and actually perform them with proper form and kind of get within the right range, right proximity to failure. Um,
Mhm. No, I mean, I agree. Like, I think, listen, I'm being honest with you. Like, I'm also mentally checked out. I'm human. When I get to
yeah,
my
yeah.
accessories, like I'm checked out.
But you can
But
be checked out and still
mhm,
have the form ingrained and the effort is still there, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Because like maybe like while I'm doing the set,
Mhm.
in my conscious mind, I'm thinking like, I got this date tonight, or
Yeah,
I have an interview, in 2 days. But like, I'm still making sure while I'm doing my tricep push downs that I'm not like letting my shoulders roll over,
right.
or on my hamstring curls, I'm not letting my butt kick up, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because, it's like you don't have to constantly be like super intense all the time. You and I have had this discussion,
Yeah.
but you do have to be able to execute things with precision. And that's
Yeah,
what
and there
matters.
yes, and there's a big difference between intensity and focus. You don't need to hype yourself up to do those push downs, but you can, and I mean, you again, there's whenever you've reached a certain level of kind of mastery or proficiency with your sort of isolation work, you don't have to apply as much focus. But especially when you're starting out, you need to understand what it feels like to execute that movement effectively, right? Like with a
Mhm.
push down, I use like the Vulcan attachment, which is like this split rope essentially, but it's got handles, so you can slip your hands into these handles
Oh, I've
and
seen those.
kind of go
Okay, yeah.
thumbless almost. Yeah, and it lets you, on a push down, get your arms way behind your body, so you're really contracting the long head. And like, yeah, if you just understand what that's supposed to feel like, you can accumulate a lot of money reps, and not necessarily have to you know,
Mhm.
snort nose torque to do it. I mean, I think we've spoken
Yeah.
about Dan Green, who's a very calm lifter, right? And again, he has focus. And I mean, there's a way you could say that's intensity, as well. There's an intense level of focus, but it's not his state of arousal isn't kind of like through the roof, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Dan Green, that's another guy who, I mean, he was really the one that popularized after the geared lifting thing started to come down. Like the fact that like you need pecs and like you
Yeah.
need some muscle on your frame. And I mean, it showed because the
Oh,
dude was
yeah.
the dude is a rock.
Yes.
And maybe that's that's probably the biggest thing I see beginners struggle with is they like, maybe I'm biased because I started out skinny, but like a
Mhm.
lot of people who are getting into the gym are like teenagers or guys in their early 20s and they're skinny. And they're like, man, I want to be like you and all this stuff. And I'm like, you know what the biggest difference is between me and you? It's I've been in the gym for a lot longer and I got a lot more muscle than you. I'm not
Mhm.
like I'm not some genetic freak where I basically walked into the gym and the muscle just burst onto my
Right.
like exploded onto my frame. It just takes time and it takes like a lot of effort eating and also sleeping, as you and I both probably know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have been in an interesting place with my surplus. So after I hadn't been tracking leading up to maxing out my squat and bench, and my weight had, fallen. I was like 201 when I did that squat, and I did the bench the day before. So, um, I got back to tracking and I weigh everything out to the gram. Anything that goes into my mouth is on the food scale and anything in my bowl goes into my mouth. Right. I'm not leaving shit on the side. So I started at 3,300 calories. I figured 200 pounds. All right, let's say 1.5 by body weight is maintenance, 3,000, 300 calorie surplus. Right. Well, into that week, I'm clocking in one mid 197s. My average is 197.6. So I bump
Mhm.
it up to 3,500. 197.6, still sitting
Oh,
there.
oh God.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
this morning, I closed at Publix last night. And I mean,
Mhm.
my steps were high. I might have been a little dehydrated, but I was fucking 194, dude.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
19. That's the lowest
Yeah.
I've been, since like probably last September or something.
Mhm.
Um, and so, I was gonna hit 3,800 calories this week, but I think I might need to push it to 4,000 and just see what happens at
Yeah.
4,000 because
Yeah,
I'm
that
just
that would be my suggestion is
yeah, I'm
probably just want to
just
hit the 4,000 mark.
steadily tracking down. And I think my step count is going up because I'm working at a grocery store too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just it's wild to me though. Like
Yeah, that'll do it.
I never thought my maintenance would be like 3,500.
Hmm.
It's just gonna make it easy to diet, if I ever trim down.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, well that's I think about this a lot actually is like whenever I'm like gonna ready to like hang it up with like the serious competitive lifting
yeah,
because I'm probably gonna be like and I recognized this a long time ago. I'm probably gonna be like nigh on like 300 pounds. I'm probably gonna be like in that
yeah,
280 range. And I'm like, man, that cut I'm hoping I'm eating like 6,000 calories a day or
yeah.
something because that cut is going to be hell.
Uh,
Because I don't want to be one of those guys that they stop lifting and then they just eat whatever the fuck and they just get fat. And
yeah.
it's
Have you
also
seen
me.
those pictures of like Chris Cormier today?
Yeah.
Dude, it's
The
bad.
one the one that gets me is Jeff Capes after he retired from Strongman.
Okay. Yeah,
He just melted. And respect
dude.
to him, obviously. He's won more
Absolutely.
world's strongest mans than I ever will. But
Well, we'll see.
but he's yeah. Well, it's funny. Someone the other day asked me, they're like, "So, what are you gonna do in strongman? Are you gonna go compete at World's Strongest Man?" And I'm like, "Dude, my goal right now is I would really like to podium at OSG.
Totally.
That's like my life goal right there. And so if
Yeah.
that happens by the time I'm like 25 or something, then we can start talking about like maybe like trying to get into the Arnold Classic Amateur and then going up and doing the professional show. Like, but also at that point, I'm gonna have to tip to the dark side a little
Oh,
bit.
absolutely. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that would be a necessary part of that
yeah,
competing at that level. And I mean, OSG is a great kind of feeder for World's Strongest Man. I mean, Pablo won last year OSG, I think.
mhm,
Now he's in the he's competing Wednesday, right? Because
yeah,
we're recording this on April 29th, and so World's Strongest Man heats start this Wednesday,
mhm.
actually. Yeah, and
So
there've
is
been
it
a
that's Pavlo
I can't
Kordiaka
remember
or
his yeah, Kordiaka, yeah,
yeah,
the ripped Ukrainian guy.
yeah.
I mean,
There's
I've
so
not
many there's
dude,
so many Ukrainians, man. They're just like
yeah.
flooding the sport. It's like the Chechnyan UFC fighters. They're all just like
Yeah,
they're like because we'll when oh my gosh, I'm forgetting his name. There was a
Alexei
guy.
Novikov.
No, in
Oh,
the
okay.
early 2000s, he dethroned Pudzianowski. He was one of the two people that did.
Okay.
I can't remember
It
his name
wasn't
off the
Big
top of my
Z
head.
though. He's
No,
Polish. Yeah.
yeah.
Never mind.
God, I don't remember his name. I'm gonna
Okay.
send you after, and we'll get his picture on here.
Yeah, yeah,
But
we could throw it in.
that was the first like Ukrainian World's Strongest Man winner right there. And then they kind of like disappeared from the scene. And then Novikov, like you said, showed up.
Yeah.
And he won. And I think all the interest in Ukraine just exploded from there because now we've got Pavlo Nakonechny who came over from powerlifting, Pavlo Kordiaka. And then there's obviously Alexei Novikov, and there's one other lifter that I can't remember the name of. But he's one of those guys that's like a fringe world's strongest man competitor who's probably going to be at like the Arnold amateur or win the Arnold amateur this year. Or
Okay.
he'll be at the next Arnold Classic like pro
Yeah.
show. So although maybe we should talk about this. I actually kind
Yes.
of have beef with Giants Live. Not me personally,
Really?
but I just the corruption in World's Strongest Man. You could probably make a strength. What is it? God, I can't remember it.
Strength
Like
stories? Yeah.
there you go, strength
About
stories
that. Yeah.
episode about that because we talked about well a little bit in the comments section. John Paul Sigmarsson, the last event was changed at the last minute because OD Wilson didn't have cardio compared to Sigmarsson,
Wow.
which is pretty
Yeah.
ironic given the whole heart thing. But
Right.
that is, I mean, there's a lot of accusations of like racism and stuff. I don't think it was that because it's a British organization and they've largely eliminated that from public broadcasting. But I think it was just because Sigmarsson was like such a well-renowned public figure
Yeah.
that and people, I mean, as you know, people loved him
Mhm. Yeah.
and people still love him. I mean, Thor has his quote tattooed on his calf. Like
Yeah. Sigmarsson and Kaz, so great. The late 80s, that back and forth. And um Kazmaier is so fucking quotable. It always seems like he's talking through like his fifth beer, basically.
Yeah,
But I think that's just kind of how
that's
he
how he is. Yeah.
communicates. Yeah. Um,
Yeah. Also the Eddie Hall thing. Do we want to talk about this? The
yeah, dive
2017
into it.
World's
Yeah.
Strongest Man thing. So I don't know how much you are aware of this. So here's a funny story for you. Before I started lifting, my first strongman video was Eddie's recap of his win at 2017 World's Strongest Man. So early on, I had the Eddie bias. And so I was like, why would Thor cheat him on the Viking press? Why would, that seems like such a scummy move. And obviously, I'm like 14 at this time. I don't have critical
Yeah.
thinking skills. So, and as I get older, I'm like, why? I mean, Thor and his coach are not dumb, like they knew the rules for the double dip. Why are they making such a big issue out of this? It
Yeah.
seems really kind of out of character. And then Eddie Hall basically, after Thor announced his chase for the 500 kilo deadlift, basically just put it all online about he had a screenshot of a story that Thor had posted about how he'd felt robbed of the 2017 World's Strongest Man. And I was like, what? And so what I did is I screenshotted the screenshot
Oh,
and I like
good.
went into Thor's caption and he's talking about how he's not talking about the double dip. That was never the point of contention. It was that the events were changed. So the
And
first
there's
event was
precedent, right? As you
Mhm.
pointed out, there's precedent for that.
Yeah, exactly, of like the organizers changing events, allegedly to help other
Mhm.
competitors. Now there are times obviously they're competing outside most of the time where they have to change things up because the equipment doesn't work for whatever reason. But the first event was supposed to be a tire flip and a like a sled pull basically. It was supposed to be like a mine cart from what I understand. And they used that same event in the heats. But in the final they changed it to just the tire flip, which greatly favored Edward.
Mhm.
And from there is when that's pretty much the main point of contention. The issue is that I think Eddie is trying to cover up the fact that that happened because Eddie and the promoters, Colin Bryce and all that whole group are actually really good friends. So when the events were changed and then Thor made this double dip complaint because he was already frustrated,
Mhm.
I think it gave Eddie the go ahead to be like, why would he say this and try to
Right.
cover up the corruption. I mean, let's call it what
Yeah.
it.
It's a misdirect, right?
Yeah, it's and a lot of competitors have started to like go their own way. I mean, Thor won't even compete at World's Strongest Man anymore.
Well,
Like,
yeah, and I mean, I think that there's incentive for that too, because the Rogue and the Arnold, I think, are held
mhm.
in equal prestige at this point. And I
Yeah,
mean, Brian Shaw's got his the Shaw Classic, which I think
yeah,
now he's rebranding as the strongest man
strongest
alive, or
man
so,
on earth. Yeah, the
which
strongest man on
sounds
earth.
quite
Yeah.
similar to
Yeah.
World's
Well,
Strongest
so
Man.
the
Yeah.
funny thing is there was a competition there was 2 years where this competition happened in the mid late 2000s called Fortissimus, where it had 10 events. And to my
Wow.
knowledge, Big Z won both of them.
Mhm.
But that Fortissimus contest, the winner was crowned the strongest man on earth. So he
Okay.
went and bought the rights to that title from them. And that's it's kind of a spiritual successor, and most people don't realize that, is that the Shaw Classic has like 8 or 10 events
Mhm.
because he's trying to find who the strongest person is in a well-rounded way.
Right.
Whereas World's
Yeah.
Strongest Man and the Arnold only have like 5 or 6 events.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it would be interesting to see an organization that had fixed events. And I mean, it would be a different sport. Part of the spirit of strongman is that variety, expressing strength with a variety of implements. Um, but it would be cool to have something where it's like we always have this press to these standards. We always have this deadlift to these standards. We always have this carry. We always have this load, and that it's just consistent.
Yeah.
And to see people kind of specialize more like powerlifters would.
Yeah. No, that would be interesting, especially with because I think like someone like Iron Biby would do really well at a
Yeah.
competition like that. I mean, obviously he's going to win the overhead, but he's a wildly underrated strongman as a whole. He also
Yeah.
has a great deadlift. He's also surprisingly good at moving events for how big he is.
Yeah.
So, but also, I saw a comment in a comment section that what you just described basically is what World's Strongest Man has become
Yeah.
because they kind of have the same, like, some very similar events year to year.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'd like to see some of the older events come back. I think the sumo wrestling one would be hilarious.
Oh, dude, hell
Oh, that'd
yes.
be so funny to
Nobody's
me.
gonna be able to pull off that sumo diaper like Kaz did, though, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Only
Yeah,
man to look fucking yoked in a sumo diaper.
yeah. No, I think people have brought up arm wrestling. I actually kind of want to hear your opinion because I know where I stand on this.
I mean, so many bicep tears, but strongman is the sport of bicep tears. So I'd love it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it would be, could you imagine the final of this year in an alternate universe and Mitch Hooper and Tom Stoltman are having to arm wrestle, which I think Tom Stoltman would win in that
Mhm.
event. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't know. What do you think?
So from a spectator perspective, hell yeah, that's a
Yeah.
lot of fun. But also, I mean, we've seen some really bad injuries. Not just the bicep tears, but Magnus Samuelsson broke someone's forearm like a compound fracture
Oh my
live on
God.
television.
Yeah.
Um, and so from that perspective, I don't like it that much. And also, it's extremely like technical with arm wrestling. I mean, there are people who
Yeah.
are like 150 pounds that could whoop my ass in an arm wrestling match just
Yeah.
because they know all the technique. So I don't really know how well it would show strength, but we need some spectator stuff in the show.
Hey man, it was
So I
World's
mean,
Strongest Man started as a TV show, you know?
yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how that works, right? Is that it started out as like a TV show and now it's basically branched out into a whole sport.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Not
It's
that
fun. Yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, not that it wasn't kind of inheriting the heritage of a lot of competitions, you know? It just
Mhm.
maybe formalized uh that kind of sort of culture of circus tricks, you
Yeah.
know?
No, it definitely yeah, it is like you said, descended from like circus strongman. So maybe we need to see more things like what is it, like the hip lift, where they've got
Yeah. Oh man.
yeah, that
Yeah.
would be fun. They also they had the back lift in like a show recently, I thought.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I kind of tuned out after this last Arnold Classic, so I haven't
Yeah.
really paid that much attention. I'm considering going to the Strongest Man on Earth competition because it's only like a 7 hour, 8 hour drive from me.
That's not bad, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just have to find someone to go with me, which I can
Bulk
find.
Boys live from
Bulk
the
Boys live from
live
we'll
broadcasting
get Brian
actually
Shaw in the
live.
background, make us look
Oh,
fucking
dude.
tiny.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm gonna look tiny next to you anyway, so
Yeah, but I'm gonna look like Brian's kid.
that's something to aspire to.
Yeah, that's a the greatness of that era of strongman with Big Z, Brian Shaw, Thor, and I guess to a degree Eddie as well, like that mid 2010s.
Mm,
Just in my opinion, that was peak strongman
yeah,
because I feel like a lot of people have made the comment that it's like a depth thing, because all the competitors are so good now,
mhm,
and that's why it doesn't seem as like crazy to watch. I think that's true that there is more depth,
mhm.
but I also don't think you can deny that the peak is just not where it was.
Yeah, yeah. I
So,
mean, to have Thor and Shaw, I mean, can you imagine if Stoltman was there? I don't think that
mm,
Stoltman hasn't come into his own yet. You know, he's still so
yeah,
young. But
yeah,
I would love to see peak Stoltman versus peak Thor and
yeah,
Brian. You know, you got three guys who are 6'8", 6'9",
mm,
you know, on towards
yeah, and
400. Tom's a little lighter than that, but
mm.
yeah.
Well, the thing with Tom is I think this might be a crazy statement, but I think he could have the highest ceiling out of the three of them. The problem is
Yeah,
that it's all a mindset thing with him. I mean, he
yeah,
basically stumbled his way into two World's Strongest Man titles, which is
crazy.
just an incredible feat of genetics. Like,
Yeah.
and like I truly believe that Tom could probably be the greatest strongman ever
Mhm.
if he could just like keep his head on straight for more than 3 months at a time.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that
Yeah.
as like a mean thing because I understand that he has autism and these kind of
Mhm.
things are hard to manage. But I I'm just saying like kind of an if. Like
Yeah.
if he can stay locked in for like 2 years at a time, he could break like every record. I mean,
Yeah.
he's already so close to all the records as it is. I mean, he has like a 220 kilo log, right?
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
And I mean, he's got short-ish arms and he's still got like 1,000 pound deadlift.
Yes. His deadlift has really come up this season, it seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Watching
And
training
he's
footage.
very explosive, like he can run really well. So, although I think at this point, also another person who's going to be in that conversation is Mitch Hooper
Yeah. So
because he's
versatile.
unstoppable,
Yeah.
unstoppable.
I think of him as when Martins won in, was that 2019
Yeah,
that he
2019.
won? Yeah. He was this mobile, kind of athletic strongman, and he won in the moving events. And I think of Mitch Hooper as cut from a similar cloth,
Hmm.
and maybe he's manifested his abilities, well, certainly more quickly. I mean, his
Hmm.
rise was just meteoric, but
Hmm.
he's very technical. He's very analytical about his training, and I think he works hard on his sort of mobility. I mean,
Yeah.
Martins Lassise, just watching him lift is sort of like, I mean, it's beautiful, frankly, to
Yeah,
watch
it
him
is.
do like a
Yeah.
zombie front squat or something. But
Hmm.
I hate that he's out this year too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, I'm kind of the kiss of death with strongman. Like I can just kind of predict when someone's career is going to go off the rails.
yeah.
And unfortunately, I was the kiss of death for both Mateusz Kieliszkowski and
Oh
Martins.
wow,
At least
yeah.
Martins got a world's strongest man in. But I remember saying to a friend of mine, like a year into lifting, I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. I was like, I don't think we're ever going to see Mateusz win a world's strongest man or win an Arnold or something, just because I don't think he's going to be able to get his deadlift up.
Mm,
And I mean, frankly, his peak placing at a world's strongest man was um 20 2019. So that's 5 years ago now.
yeah.
And he was a young man then. I mean, he was like
Mhm.
25 or 26. But now he's like this is where he needs to start like winning and he hasn't really
Yeah,
progressed at all. So, and then Martins after he got hit in the bike accident, I was like, dude, that's a hard thing to come back from.
yeah, yeah.
So,
But I
and I
have to.
don't
Oh, good.
I just don't know if he has the motivation to. He already won. Like he's
Yeah,
already
and
in the history book.
yes, and that's what he has always. He is so much bigger than the sport, and
Yeah.
he recognizes that. And to be doing this whole documentary series, traveling around the world, I think that that is what's more enticing to him, than maybe putting in a 12-month block in
Yeah.
strongman. And he's always had this like 5-year plan, like I'm going to take this year to travel and uh film Strength Unknown, and then I'm going to come back and peak for this show, right? And he
Mhm.
just has this patience and maturity. So I don't know. I don't want to write him off just because I like him so much. But
Yeah.
I've had the same feeling that,
Yeah.
he has the one, and it's a tremendous accomplishment. So many people have pinnacles of their careers that don't involve even making it to World's Strongest Man, and are
Mhm.
very respectable lifters in and of themselves. So
Mhm. No, I completely agree. I also think you're right that Martins and Mitch Hooper are kind of cut from the same cloth because
mhm,
they're both very, very intelligent.
mhm.
That's the thing that I got the most from watching both of them like in their YouTube channel. And not that anyone else is particularly, unintelligent. All
Yeah,
these guys are pretty intelligent. But Martins and Mitch are able to get a leg up on their competitors who might have better actual talent for lifting things because they're so meticulous with their mobility, with their technique, with those kind of things.
yeah,
And it's like Martins and Thor were like best friends for a little while. And they're complete opposites
yeah,
because Thor is a complete genetic specimen and Martins is just way smarter, like not smarter, but way more methodical in his
mhm,
approach than
yeah,
everyone else. And both of them have the same amount of world's strongest man wins.
That's true. Yeah.
So even though, I mean, for my money, Thor is the most dominant um strongman to ever like be in the sport.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to see his return.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and see where it goes. I mean, we have not seen him at his best this year. So
Yeah. I think I'm pretty intrigued because when he first said he was having a comeback, I was a little worried because I mean he did retire on top, you know, he's got
mhm.
the deadlift record, 3 Arnold Classic wins, a win at World's Strongest Man. He won, everyone forgets about this, World's Ultimate Strongman Dubai, which was like the the stand-in for that third competition before Rogue Invitational and
Okay.
those kind of things. Um And I was like, dude, like, I think him setting off into the sunset after he got his boxing money would have been the right move. So I was a little
Yeah.
bit worried about his legacy there. But I mean, he came back and came second to the
Yeah.
current reigning world's strongest man. So we'll see. I mean, I think as long as he can stay injury free, he'll be, you know, sky's the limit.
Yeah, and I just have this inkling that we're going to see him as a Masters competitor too. I think that he doesn't want to put it down, you know.
Yeah.
I just have this intuition about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that's a good intuition.
Yeah.
Because even if, you know, Thor cuts back down to like 160 or 170 kilo body weight, which is still ridiculously heavy.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, we're talking about Thor here. He could probably do really, really well at Masters competitions.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think that's within a healthy range for someone that fucking huge. You know,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, to be 375 at 6'9", I mean, what is the old like a golden era formula like 7 pounds per inch of height? So, you know, that would be 7 times 12 is 84. Well, I guess it's like 300 at 5'11". I don't know. Maybe that formula is not the right one to trust,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
just from an eye, like eyeballing him, I
Mhm.
mean, the dude had abs at 400 pounds, you
Yeah,
know? So it's like,
yeah, of
yeah,
course. No, and not only is he 400 pounds, but he has the frame of someone who's like a broad 5'10" at
yeah,
6'9",
yes,
which is the
yeah,
part that always shocked me because like, you know, I'd be watching the Arnold Classic elephant bar deadlift and him and Shaw are going back and forth.
yeah.
And, you know, Thor's only an inch taller than Brian Shaw, but he's like probably, it looks like a foot wider than Brian
Wow.
Shaw, which is a
That's so
really
crazy.
crazy thing to say because Brian's
Yes.
not like a narrow dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's what always like kind of shook me about Thor was that he just, I mean, the guy, he's as built to be a strong man as it gets. Like
Yeah.
him and Tom Stoltman and Brian Shaw are just in their own world compared to everyone else in the competition, in my
Well,
opinion.
we're going to see more of that. You know, there's more money in the sport, there's more popularity of the sport. As much as I despise CrossFit, it sort of has had this marriage with strongman through Rogue,
Yeah,
that I think is, and you know, I mean, even the CrossFit games are incorporating strongman equipment, you know, into
yeah,
their um competition. So yeah, I think that it's gonna become we're gonna see it become more accessible and just the same thing that happened with powerlifting, where it's like if you totaled 1500, and we may have spoken about this, but if you totaled
mhm,
1500 when I started lifting, you were like a national level, international level competitor, you know, if you
yeah,
weren't a super heavyweight, basically. And
mhm,
now it's like everybody and their sister is totaling 1500 at like, you know, the in like the 83 kilogram weight class, and they're a
yeah.
teen, you know, and they have
No,
like a
yeah,
scoliosis, you know, and they had the flu when they did that. It's like,
yeah, exactly. No, just the standard is just so ridiculous. It's funny, right?
yeah,
Because I'm thinking about this 1500 total for this meet in November, right?
right.
And I'm like, that'll qualify me. I think like 1510 or something would qualify me for junior nationals. Qualify.
That's wild. I mean, that would have what I'm talking out my ass here, but I feel like that would have been competitive at open nationals, you know,
Mhm.
let's say 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree because I remember seeing like old Pete Rubish videos when he was on PEDs
Right.
and he's like, he's deadlifting like mid 800s or something. And obviously squat and bench were lagging at that point, but he was
Yeah.
still uh, like, hey guys, took number two overall
Wait,
at,
no, you gotta be. Hey guys.
hey
There it is.
guys,
Yeah.
took number two overall at current US Open 2016 with my 1860 total. And like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm thinking about this and I'm like, there's got to be a teenager out there who's
Dude.
totals that, right?
Yeah, well, Austin Perkins totaled that, in USPL in the 83 kilogram weight class.
Did he
And
really?
he's
Oh
like
my.
5'4". Yeah, he totaled because I think Atwood totaled 839 and Perkins did, I think he was 843 or something. But he was in that vicinity. So that's like, 1850 or something, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, just wild.
That just I It's yeah, just the ceiling of the sport, just in all lifting, even in bodybuilding, is just
Yeah.
going up and up and up. It's well, it used to be like a really frowned upon thing. I don't are you aware of this? Like back in the Arnold days, like if you lifted weights, it was like a taboo thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
was kind of people cast aspersions
Yeah,
at
because
that. Yeah.
when I got into lifting, my grandfather, who is we'll say not someone I see very often, but someone I talk to on the phone a lot.
Okay.
Um, Not a lot, but I talk to on the phone every so often. He said some fairly homophobic remarks when he found out that I was
Right.
getting into lifting
Yeah.
weights. But I mean there's some history with bodybuilding and doing some stuff, but
Oh,
I
of
don't
course.
know.
Yeah. I mean, the
Yeah.
Joe Weider kind of back room,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we can talk about this. We've talked about the corruption and strongman. We can talk
Yeah.
about the little bit odd history of bodybuilding. Not that there's
Yeah.
anything wrong with it, I guess. Um
Well,
just
no, as long as it's not
yeah.
coercion, right? As long as
Oh,
it's
yeah, of course.
consensual. I mean,
Yeah, but
yeah.
a lot of those bodybuilders didn't make money back in those days. And
Yeah.
so if you're going to profit off of your ridiculous looking body,
Yeah.
there's a handful of people that will pay for that, and
Yeah.
most of those people were male business executives. So there's a lot of gay for pay going on.
Right. Right. Yeah. And, I think that to the general public, especially in the 50s and the 60s and 70s, like if you told someone you lifted weights, they had no conception that you might have nothing to do with bodybuilding. You might walk past the dumbbell rack to get to the squat rack, right? And you're never stripping down and in the half natty lighting, right? And taking
Mhm.
your TikTok or whatever the fuck
Oh
Instagram
God,
photos,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so to the general public, they think, oh, I'm a power lifter. Oh, you're the guy who puts on the thong, right? And oils
Yeah.
up. And it's like,
Oh my, yeah, a lot of my family still thinks that I'm a bodybuilder. They'll say I'm a
yeah.
bodybuilder. I'm like, I'm not a bodybuilder.
Dude, so hard to explain. So
Yeah,
hard to
but
explain.
it's I mean, for me it's not worth the argument, but also yeah, you have a good point where like until very recently, powerlifting wasn't even on the map compared to bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Because the best and even and strongman too. Um, like the best bodybuilder in the world off of prize money in the Mr. Olympia will make like $500,000. The best powerlifter in the world, if he wins like whatever, like the US Open or something in the non-natty federations where all the money's
Yeah.
at, in my
Like
opinion.
John Hack.
Yeah, you're making 40K,
Yeah.
which so you're talking 10% or less. And the world's strongest man,
Yeah.
world's strongest man, in my opinion, that title should be worth like 500,000 right there. Because you are literally the
Sure.
strongest man on the planet,
Yeah.
not even breaking 100K.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, and until recently, it was even less than that. I mean, you've there's probably people nowadays that are still competitive in powerlifting that remember when you got like $100 Amazon gift card, a trophy, and a handshake, like
Right.
for
Yeah.
being the best, like breaking a world record total or something. Like
Yeah. And you had to
the
pay for the t-shirt. If you wanted the meat
exactly, yeah,
t-shirt, you still had to pay for it. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's just I don't know. Everything's come along so fast, and it makes me really really happy. I think it's a pretty positive thing for people as a whole that get their
Yeah.
outlet for physical
Yeah.
exercise.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that just to continue this line of thought, most people who come to the gym and want and say they're going to be a recreational power lifter, what they really want to do is look like they lift. And I mean every power lifter wants to look like they lift, but I think a lot of people who do powerlifting or get into powerlifting see it as an avenue to get jacked, whereas I think that more intermediate and advanced powerlifters see hypertrophy work as an avenue to express their strength and to get stronger.
Yeah.
So that kind of the switch kind of flips. And
Mhm.
I mean, we've probably spoken about this directly before, but I think it's so funny whenever people say that somebody who's posting their like deadlift max is ego lifting, because what's really ego lifting to me is
Mhm.
doing 50 sets of bicep curls. So you look, all pumped up, right? I mean, how
Yeah.
is that any less about your ego
Yeah.
than yeah,
The whole gym is about your ego.
totally.
Like, let's just call it what it is, guys. We are in the gym to be better because we think we are better or we should be better.
Yeah.
It literally is all related to your ego. And that's
Yeah.
okay because obviously there's probably a billion people worldwide that have a gym membership or had a gym membership at some point.
Yeah.
So, but let's be honest here. Lifting in general is just it's for your ego. It's about your appearance or your performance, I guess. So, but
And
yeah,
then
yeah, go ahead.
and I mean for you and I and for many people, there's more to it, but that's absolutely an inseparable aspect of it. I the we can talk about like challenging yourself, kind of like personal growth through kind of striving for improvement, and following like a disciplined program. Um, but there's still that fucking I want to look juicy, man. I'm trying to make my neck disappear. I want those P. Rubish traps.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
don't we all? Don't we all? And well, and also like it. I mean, like there was this thing you and I have probably talked about it where like people say that like oh lifting only gets you attention from dudes
Yeah.
and like at the early stages yeah but if you look like a fucking freak of nature you're gonna stand out you're gonna
Oh
look
yeah.
better in every shirt you wear
Look, man, when I
so
was like a chubby 220 as a junior in college, I
mhm.
had a very different set of prospects in the dating market than whenever I got a six pack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like let's just call it what it is. And people are scared to admit that for some reason, but it's
Yeah.
true. Like a lot of the reason people get into the gym, that's why I got into the gym,
Mhm.
is to be attractive to whoever you're interested in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and again, that relates back to the whole ego thing. So why are you going to go criticize someone who's posting their deadlift max, their PR that they're really
Yeah.
happy about because it's a tangible progress for them?
Yes.
Like, why are you gonna go shit on them when like the reason you're in the gym is so that you can hopefully one day like feel the touch of a woman in real life?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
what what difference is it? Like,
Yeah.
let the guy be happy. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my whole thing. That's also why I'll never really critique things like someone's squat depth unless it's
Mhm.
like egregious. If it's a
Yeah.
gym lift, I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
cares?
And yes, and it's an entirely different set of circumstances where you're saying this was like a bad call, right? Like this
Mhm.
person did not hit the standard in a competition and was rewarded the lift, which even at that point, it's within the parameters of the sport because the fact that there are like side judges, uh, sort of, I mean, that's if you get three white lights or two white lights, the lift passes, right? And so accounted for in there is the fact that the judges are fallible, right? So it's the judge's call. And you can say that's a bad call. The judge could have done a better job. In the same way you could say the lifter could have done a better job by hitting depth, right? Like,
Yeah.
but that's just part. So it's part of the sport. But sorry, that was a total tangent as
No.
far as
Yeah.
that. But yeah, if you're in the gym and you're happy because you quarter squatted, whatever, three plates, that's awesome, man.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why everyone feels the need to be so negative. It's like
Yeah.
'cause just let people be happy, man. Like them being
Yeah.
happy does not make you not happy. Or at
Right.
least it shouldn't. You shouldn't have that
Yeah.
as part of your psychology. But yeah, I don't know. So much negativity. I just want
Yeah.
people to I want people to feel like they're progressing and to be happy. Like that's,
Absolutely.
I mean, that kind of relates back to what we talked about at the beginning of this, where I'm doing this memorial lift for my friend who was not happy, like in his honor.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And, I just, like I said, I want, well, no matter what you're doing, as long as you're not hurting anyone else, I just want you to be happy.
Absolutely. That's the take home message for the day, dude. Dude, I saw Ethan squat 500 the other day.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That says it all, man.
Yeah, he actually, the crazy thing is, right? So the record at Sandia High is 515, and it was like a half squat, but whatever. We're not going to talk about that. And so Ethan went for 520 right after that,
Oh my God.
and he failed based on his hip extension strength. And one of my biggest critiques in that state video was that he was skipping his deadlift accessories, aka his hip extension work.
Right.
And so I
Okay.
told him, I was like, you can't go skipping that shit anymore because now it's
Yeah.
your squat issue and your
Yeah.
deadlift issue. So
Hey, tell him that girls love guys' asses too. If
I
because if
will.
that fails, yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's totally a thing I
He
didn't realize until like five
it's
years ago.
yeah, it's funny. I just sent him his next week of training because I literally told him not to work out
Oh,
for the next week after or 2 weeks after state.
that's smart.
And because dude, that guy is a fucking basket case.
Yeah.
But he what did he say? He was like, "Oh, well, I want to work out Monday today, but can we have a rest day Tuesday?" And I'm like, "There's no way you just asked me to start the program on Monday and then immediately have a rest day knowing
Uh-huh.
him." And then he was like, "No, no, no, wait, wait, wait. I have this girl that I'm flirting with at the gym that was only there Tuesday night when I would be going in." I was
Nice.
like, "Oh my God, dude. You're killing me." But it gets him to go to the gym. That's all I care
Yeah,
about.
there you go, man.
So, and then
Yeah.
he also was like, "Don't make me bench like 115 for like 15 reps." And I was
Not on
like, "Well,
Tuesdays, right?
I was like, not on Tuesday because, well, the way I have it organized for my guys who go 5 days a week is
Uh,
the week starts with an upper body day most of the
mhm.
time. And so I'm like, don't worry, you're going to be squatting, so it'll be pretty impressive with
Yeah.
that 500 squat, At least he'll just be doing sets of like, I don't even know. I don't remember what I put down. Like probably like 275 high bar, no belt, no sleeves,
Uh-huh. Nice.
sets of 10 and stuff, which
Yeah.
in a that'll make you it's funny, squat sets you apart more than bench does, I feel like in the gym.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, maybe not where you work out because I know you're at a
Well,
pretty
not at that power lift, but dude, when I was at
yeah.
Shitty Time Fitness, yeah, people were fucking, yeah,
Yeah,
people
people look
thought
at
I
you,
was
right?
somebody. Yeah. And I was
Yeah,
like,
when I
dude, if you go 2 miles away, you would realize I'm fucking nothing. And you
yeah,
go to the other
exactly.
gym. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a actually that 485 squat video that I have. What you guys don't see on camera is that um before and after there was a crowd of probably like 5, 6 people like just scattered throughout the gym, all fucking staring at the bar after I loaded it.
Damn.
Cause and
Yeah.
I was like, I feel good in my heart because like wow, I'm looking like a fucking
Of
badass.
course.
But
Yeah.
also like if I fail this, I'm gonna I'm gonna have to like hang my head
Right.
and never show up here again. Um, yeah. Actually, the looks that I got for the 500, half squat that I did,
Oh,
that was probably even more crazy because I can guarantee you no one else in that gym has ever loaded 5 plates on a
yeah.
squat.
Yeah.
Yeah. At shitty time fitness, as you call it.
Nice. Oh yeah, you were literally that's where you were training in Illinois.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was personal training at multiple different gyms.
Okay.
And so the main gym that I worked out at had the like heavy metal plates
Yeah.
instead of like the ones that are like metal on the inside but rubber coated on the outside. And
Yeah.
also for whatever reason, the Anytime had better bars. Like it had an actual squat bar in there.
That's awesome. Yeah,
And
it real
so
those really vary by location, like what they have. Like
yeah.
there's another one on the other side of Tallahassee that has this fucking amazing hack squat. And it's like
Mhm.
I've considered driving 30 minutes just to use that hack squat,
The hack
you know.
squat.
Yeah.
I actually that's a piece of equipment I've never used is a hack
Really?
squat. I've
Oh,
tried
dude.
them,
Yeah.
but like to be honest, the one time I tried it, I had no weight on there and my knees just felt like terrible. And
Okay.
so, but I'm not someone who gets knee pain really.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm just being a bitch or something. I don't know.
I don't know. I have like weirdly bulletproof knees. My
Yeah.
elbows are tender, but like my
Yeah.
knees are just I can do anything. it
Yeah,
seems like so.
yeah. It's funny how the genetic variation with that, because ironically, probably the most injured part of my body is my foot. Like
Wow.
my joints in general, like my left elbow right now, my knees have been kind of in the past, but like nothing crazy. I've torn two different muscles in my feet. Like,
Wow.
yeah, and one of them is like a reoccurring thing. Like it's a plantar fasciitis. So
Oh,
like
dude,
there's a
that could be
yeah,
crippling.
yeah. And so it's very, very light on my part. But what happens is like it doesn't affect me while I'm lifting, but like after one of my training days, I go and do hill sprints, and it'll affect me during that because you're like more
Makes
up on
sense.
your toes type
Yeah.
thing. So I mean you're right though, it can be crippling. I mean that's in my opinion, that's why Thor lost the 2019 World's Strongest Man, is in
Yeah.
the qualifier he tore his plantar fascia.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually in 2018, Brian Shaw tore his plantar fascia like a month out from the show.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, there's some I have only noticed recently because like I was doing power shrugs and then I was like resting 30 seconds and going and doing my belt squat and my foot muscles would get so sore and I realized it was from coming up on my toes with a lot of weight on the power
yeah.
shrugs. And it's like so you if you're carrying like an 800-pound yoke, that's gotta kill your feet.
Oh God, yeah. Especially if you have any kind of athletic background where you're taught to be more on the ball of your foot and on your
Uh-huh.
toes. Oh man, that's got to be hell.
Yeah.
So, yeah, actually though, I think probably what you're doing might be good in a way because it'll probably strengthen those feet muscles a little bit.
Hopefully. It
Yeah.
feels excruciating. I mean, I'd rather have I can deal with the quad stuff. It's just the the feet are bad.
Yeah,
I guess I'm
you're
not
probably
used to
not
it.
used to the feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever been rock climbing before?
Oh yeah, dude, I used to climb seriously. We
Oh,
got a
really?
great gym in Tallahassee. Yeah, when I first moved here. It's
Oh,
so
that's
fun.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is fun. It's funny, the lifting like side hobbies that people have, like jujitsu is the real common one, I feel like.
Yeah.
Arm wrestling, I guess, is also included in that. And then like there's just like you and I, it sounds like rock climbing is gonna be
Yeah.
what we go off into after our joints are too fucked to lift.
Yeah, man, if I
So
couldn't lift, like for some reason, I would just go all in on climbing. It's so
yeah,
I love it.
yeah. I've man, it's so funny. I think about what I'm gonna do when I'm done lifting a lot
Yeah.
because I gotta be like ready because if
Yeah.
I don't have a plan for what I'm gonna
Oh,
do after, I'm fucked. Because I don't know what
yes.
I'm gonna do with my all my energy.
Yeah.
And I think rock climbing is probably a strong contender. Jujitsu's up there, that's for sure. And then after that, man, if I'm not able to do either of those, I'm just gonna like I don't know, I'm gonna have to go like start a Ponzi scheme or something because I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do with my
Dude,
time.
get in. Well, I mean, if you're not gonna do those, I mean, get into like endurance running. That's what everybody's doing now.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like that's the whole Pete Rubish thing right now,
Yeah.
right? Is he's like getting ready for 100-mile
Yeah.
ultra marathon.
And
I just
it's like a trail marathon too. It's like a hard 100 miles.
Yeah, truthfully, I don't know if I have that in me to run that
Yeah.
much because I just get so bored. Like if I don't have something to
Yeah.
do up here,
Yeah.
I would just get so bored. But that said, I actually have enjoyed the last few like distance runs I've been on. I don't do them like super often or anything, but so I don't know, maybe there's potential
Yeah.
there. Or I'll go into swimming or something. I don't know.
There,
There's
yeah, and
yeah.
swim training is different too. It's a lot of intervals. So
Mhm.
it's and there's a lot of variety. So
Yeah.
that might be more engaging. But dude, it makes sense why you're attracted to jujitsu and rock climbing because those are like there's so many variables. It's you're problem solving while you're doing it, you know?
Exactly. It's like it's very
Yeah.
mental. And that's what I like. I mean, my biggest advantage, my biggest advantage in everything I've ever done is my ability to think through things. And so I feel like that's probably why it gravitates to me and also why coaching came to me is like I was
Yeah.
never the guy on a sports team who was just like, like way more athletic than everyone. I just I would think through things more than everyone else. I was
Yeah.
a lot better at critical thinking than the other 12-year-olds. So
Nice, nice.
So, and that's applied greatly now for me in coaching because now I've gotten to a point where
Sure.
I've figured out my own body, really well. And then it's also doesn't take me that long to figure out other people's bodies. So,
Do you think it's easier to figure someone else out than figure out yourself? Because you got to see around yourself,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
around your
you're
own biases.
exactly. Yeah, you have to there's a lot more hoops to jump through with
Yeah,
yourself, which is why I think most of the highest level
yeah,
lifters have a someone else coaching them. They don't really
totally.
have like and it might be all of them and it might just be people don't really talk about it because uh someone I always thought had a coach or didn't have a coach was Eddie Hall. And
Yeah.
then turns out he actually had like multiple coaches. He had like an endurance training coach so that he could get his stamina up for, the yoke runs and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And then he also had a weights coach. But also the level of involvement with different coaches is not like super clear to me. I've
Yeah.
had I've had two actual coaches and both of them were like literally writing my whole program for me.
Mhm.
But I know a lot of people it's like they'll write their own program, coach just signs off on it and tells them when their technique is bad,
Oh,
basically.
wow. Yeah. Yeah. They're very different level of relationship and
Yeah.
probably different pay scale,
Yeah,
hopefully.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a moment of self-honesty the other day that I didn't want to like
Mhm.
the way I'm programming my program set up right now, I have two squat days. And I'm taking a day off after the second one just because I mean my elbows get so fucked. And I was trying to low bar on both of them, and it just is ruining my bench day after that first squat day. And I was like, dude, yes, in an optimal world, you'd be better off doing the competition specific lift twice a week, but it's like it's fucking up my bench. So I'm probably losing more on bench than I gain on squat. So I'm just doing high bar the first day. And it's like
Yeah.
I did that yesterday, and today I went in, zero elbow pain. Great
Yeah.
bench workout,
Yeah.
and it's like,
That would be my coaching thing. If I was
yeah,
your coach, I would have told you to do exactly what you just did.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm not actually a big fan. This is like my own coaching
Mhm.
thing, is that I actually kind of hate the idea of doing the same exact exercise twice in a week.
Yeah,
So, if you look at any of my programs that I'll put out, it'll usually be like some slight variation. Like
yeah.
even if I was gonna write some like super high frequency, like 4, 5, 6 times a week bench program, you would probably only comp bench one, maybe two of those days.
Mhm.
But the rest would be like close grip, Larson,
Yeah.
banded, fat grip, like just it would be something because I don't believe in doing the same exact hyper specific training except for like 3 weeks out from a true meet.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's easier to progress too because it's like if I have two comp bench days, which I do, it's like, okay, am I gonna the way that I'm programming, I'm just kind of I mean, I'm just adding 5 pounds in the rep range until I can't hit the rep range, right? So it's like, am I
Yeah.
gonna add 2.5 pounds twice a week? Or maybe I'm better off doing a variation and just adding 5 pounds to the variation, right? Like
Hmm.
each week. So it's like one jump in weight and it's just a collide. So I'm doing like bench and then Larson press, which I did today, and then my other day was also comp bench. But it's like I'm doing at this point because I'm doing a hypertrophy phase. I'm not arching that much, and it's like I'm
Hmm.
not using leg drive, so I'm not even getting the specificity that you would get from comp benching twice a week. So why not, do a
Hmm.
close grip on one of those days? I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And also from the mental aspect, I find that it's a lot easier for someone to keep their shit together if they're not doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah, yeah,
So, I mean, maybe again, I'm a little ADD, so like it might just be me.
yeah,
But I also find for all my lifters, like Ethan actually this is a great example. If I made him squat low bar
yeah.
more than once a week, he would like have a mental breakdown and like shut down because that is such a mental task for him to be able to do that
Yeah,
that he just literally would shut down.
yeah.
And so
No,
for
that makes
me, that's
sense.
how I am on like a conventional deadlift. If
Mhm.
I had to do just straight from the floor conventional deadlift more than once a week, I would shoot myself. It would
Yeah.
just I would lose my mind because it's such a mentally hard task
Mhm.
to get your mind up to do the same thing that you did 3 days ago and that you're gonna do in 3 days, you know?
Right. Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah. It's also why I think a lot of the old school like like I guess sort of like the Lily Bridges, like their programming was, you'd basically deadlift or squat heavy like every other week,
Yeah.
and then you would just alternate. Because I think just especially when you're lifting 1,000 pounds, like it's got to be a mental task to like get under that much weight and
Yeah.
do it frequently enough that you progress.
Oh God, yeah.
So
Yeah. And it's like the toll on your tendons. I mean, Stan Efferding would come in just to squat, and then he would do all his accessories on a separate day. Right. So it's like all because he's you got to take 20 warm-ups to squat 900, right? So it's
yeah.
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and well, that's how sort of to a degree how I feel now is like doing
yeah,
those 20 rep squats is like even though the weight isn't that much, each set takes like a minute and a half. And so if you're
dude.
going to go by the Greg Doucette, timeline of um if you're going to go by the Greg Doucette timeline of like 6 times your whatever the set duration is for your rest time, I'm
Uh-huh.
resting for like 10 minutes in between
Right.
sets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so those two sets, one of 20, one of 15, if
Yeah.
you factor in the rest times, takes me like 25 minutes plus 10 or 15 minutes to warm up.
Yeah.
So two sets takes me 40 minutes.
Whole workout. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's why I texted you and I was just like, hey, do you mind just doing this a little early?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because like I could have probably gone and done my snatch grip deadlifts after,
Oh,
but I was so cooked mentally. I was literally sitting I have like a nice chair in there, like a
oh,
recliner. And I was literally just like in the recliner, just
yeah.
dead for like 10 minutes after that second set, trying not to puke.
Dude, it's so stressful to have the bar on your back that long, especially with a reasonable amount of weight on it and just the cardiovascular toll. It's a lot in addition to the muscular damage,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like the muscular side of things isn't even that bad. It's mainly the like
Yeah.
you literally just can't breathe
Yeah, I think
because
you're
yeah,
that makes sense.
you lose your brace if you take a
Yeah.
diaphragmatic breath. So you get your
Right.
one before you
And then you get the
unrack it.
shallow, like,
Yeah. So you're
yeah.
doing the shallow like chest shoulder breathing and you're doing your best to like get oxygen into your
Yeah.
system because by the time you hit probably rep 10 or 12 and you're 45 seconds in,
Yeah.
you start to like burn through your oh my God, your anaerobic like energy systems and you
Yeah.
need to start relying on oxygen.
Right.
So and then yeah, and I think that's why I'm like borderline puking after the set where I'm like am I gonna have to go
Yeah.
get up and go to the trash can?
Yeah.
Because
All those hydrogen ions from metabolizing lactate, right? Am I
yeah,
right with that? Yeah.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
lactic acid, not lactate.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you're just like completely I don't know. That is probably the worst thing is like the 20 rep squats it just also just burns through your blood sugar. Like I didn't
Yeah.
realize this that if you're like dead in the middle of a workout, chances are that you've already just burned through all your blood sugar.
Yeah.
So like once you pound the carbs after, you're not going to
Yeah.
feel tired because your body really needs it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I get the intra workout thing.
Mhm.
If you're willing to fork over a fortune, cyclic dextrin's really good because it, clears your stomach like immediately, but it doesn't raise blood sugar. It just keeps a stable level.
Oh, okay.
That's why allegedly, I mean, that's why
Yeah.
people pay that's why Dante Trudell's a millionaire. True Nutrition after the
Yeah.
dog crap stuff. So
Oh my God, yeah.
yeah.
I never knew about the dog crap stuff. Like,
Really?
actually, can you give me like a quick history lesson about
Oh
this?
my
What
dude,
it is?
dog crap was a phenomenon, man. And some people still train that way, but like basically his idea was you come in every other day, you've got an A workout and a B workout, and it's like a 2 day split, and you have two variations of either day. So you do like chest, I think you do chest, quads, um, triceps, shoulders on one day, and then you do like back, hamstrings, biceps on the other day. And it's like and you have two rotations. So like whatever exercises you do on the first day, you don't repeat those until like basically I guess every 2 weeks or so. Every other week you do those exercises. But you're doing one set to failure on every exercise and it's extended. It's like beyond failure really because
Mhm.
you hit failure and then you do assisted reps and then you do partials and then you do no, sorry. You hit failure and it's rest pause, right? And you do like
Okay.
rest pause, another rest pause, and then you go into the like extended stuff with like the
Yeah.
forced reps and the partials. So you're just like eking out as much muscle damage as you can in one set. And
Okay.
then you got to beat the logbook next time you do that exercise, right? And so
Okay.
like, and one
Oh,
thing
so it kind of just like it's like progressive overload and hit training, like kind of.
combined,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And I
I
mean
like
that,
that. I like that.
yeah, yeah. And it's
Mhm.
and he did a lot of like weighted stretches. Like you would do like a 90-second weighted dip stretch or like a 90-second calf stretch, at the
Mhm.
end of the workout.
Yeah.
Um, And yeah, dude, and like Dusty Hinshaw still trains that way. There were a lot of like early 2000s pros who, were kind of trained by him. And
Yeah.
Jordan Peters, right? Like the
Mhm.
British dude. Yeah, I mean, he basically is doing dog crap. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
See, I actually, it's funny. That's kind of an approach that I sort of do on my accessory work a little bit.
yeah.
Is I'll do like basically like a warm up set where it's like I'll do like one set of like 10 or 12 with like my tricep push downs. And then I'll just go like blood and guts on the second set. And
Nice.
then I'm just
Yeah.
next exercise. Because with your accessories, like you don't really need skill practice. You're there to
Right.
destroy the muscle.
Totally. Yes.
So
So why not get there as fast as possible? Right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like that whole
for
like,
sure.
oh, I'm gonna do bicep curls to 3 RIR. Shut the fuck
Yeah,
up. That's
shut the
so
fuck.
stupid,
Oh my
dude.
God, I'm so glad you
Yeah.
agree with me on this. Like there's a time and place for it, I'm sure.
Yes.
But if your goal, like you've already done bench press, you've already done dips, you've already done shoulder press or whatever, and you're like, oh, I got to finish off my triceps with tricep kickbacks,
Yeah.
better stay 3 reps away from failure. I'm like,
Yeah,
dude,
right.
shut the fuck up. Like, just go hard, dude. It'll save you time too, because then you don't have to do 5 sets of 8. You do a set
Yes.
of 10, and then you beat the shit out of yourself with a set of 13 or fucking
Yeah.
whatever, and then you're done.
Yes. And it's like, especially if you think about effective reps, which I totally subscribe to that, right? Like
Mhm.
within 5 reps of failure is the only stuff that matters, right? So it's like, if you're gonna, why would you do 5 sets with 1 or 2 effective reps in there? Because you're stopping at, you know, 7 or 3 RIR when you could do 1 set to failure, 5 effective reps, rest 20 seconds. I like rest pause a lot for
Mhm.
isolations. Rest 20 seconds, get 4 more effective reps, rest 20 seconds, 4 more effective reps, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's just the whole RP and like Mike Israel hyper systematizing stuff is, I
Mhm.
mean, a lot of its principles are great, but I think they just take it way too far with that, like, oh, we're gonna have a 5 week hypertrophy mesocycle and you're going to go from 3 RIR to 0 RIR, and then you deload and you completely start over, right? Like, I just
Mhm.
don't think the body works that way. And I mean, Minnow Hinselman's has talked about how, you don't really need a deload if you're just training for hypertrophy. You could do a reactive deload, right? If your
Mhm.
like muscles were too sore to overload that day, but you don't need to take a week off every fourth week.
Yeah.
I mean, that's more of like a powerlifting Westside thing. And that's more about like neural fatigue, which you've talked about, right? But it's
Yeah. And
yeah, you
well,
don't need to
my
deload your bicep curls.
yeah. Yeah, from my perspective, um, as far as like a true like standard deload where you take a full week,
Yeah.
I might have done that like twice ever. And I
Wow.
had Ethan do it before that meet.
Yeah.
But other than that, I've never had any of my clients take a full week deload.
Yeah.
I have only my thing is like they'll get to a point where they're like, "Hey, everything's slowing down." And they're like
Yeah.
mentally maybe they're not like completely in anymore. And
Yeah.
I'm like, "All right, let's take 3 days, go hike, go do something else,
Yeah.
like go like take time away from the gym
Yeah.
so that your body can recover and your mind can recover
Yeah.
so that you can get back into it." But usually that takes like at most probably 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
So
That's
usually
what I
for
like to do too. Is like three, and I don't know why, but 3 days is my number too. Like I'm just
Mhm.
taking 3 days off, man. I'm not gonna go in for a week and do like, oh, 2 sets at 50% of my working weight for a whole
Yeah.
week. Yeah, it
Yeah.
just and
Well,
it
yeah,
doesn't give that
because
mental aspect either, where you're out of the
exactly
gym.
you
Yeah.
still have to go into the gym and then you're just doing shit that's boring. Let's just call it what it is. If
Yes.
you're at this level, you enjoy going hard.
Yeah.
Like you go take a break, dude.
Yeah.
Go go on a boat and go rafting or something. I don't know.
Yes.
Do
Totally.
something that's mentally stimulating and makes you
Yeah.
not think about the gym. And they say it like takes like 2 weeks for you to start going backward. Great. You're probably going to take all 3 of those days just to lower, like to reduce the fatigue. So you're
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
So
And when you come
now,
back in there, you're going to be fired up.
mhm. From my perspective, with strength training, there is a big proportion of time where you should probably be in that like RPE 7-8 range.
Yes, I think the whole
Yeah.
time, honestly, that's
Yeah.
kind of where I've come to. It's like that's my like objective for this training block is like stop at an honest 8 RPE, maybe eight
Mhm.
and a half on bench, okay? But like keep it seven
Yeah.
to eight, you know? And I think, I mean, it just, I don't get achy in my joints if I do that. And I'm practicing the skill of good form, you know? So I
Yeah.
agree.
There's a Matt Wenning quote where he's talking about people who do like squats to failure and stuff. And he's someone who I think most people would agree has like excellent technique, like among the best ever.
Yeah.
And he said something to the effect of, the only way you're going to get technique this efficient is by practicing situations where it's not going to break down because of the weight.
Mm,
Like it has to, the only reason you should break down is because you are like not mentally locked in, basically.
yeah.
And that's how he got his technique so good over like years. I don't really think it's going to take you years. It might
Yeah.
take you like a year and a half to like completely lock in your squat technique.
Yeah.
But even then, you should still probably like RPE 9 should be like an accident type thing.
Yeah. Totally.
So like most and but then again, on your accessories, your goal is not to do skill work. It's not to be able to add 10 pounds or whatever
Yeah.
next week. Your goal is to shock the muscle, like to
Yeah.
hit to stimulate your muscles to grow.
Pillage the muscle, man.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's when you put on the Slayer, dude. That's when you just, put on
Yeah.
Linkin Park and start crying. Don't do it for
Yeah.
your deadlift work sets, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're like in a strength block, and then
Yes.
that's appropriate,
Yeah,
right? But for
exactly. I
most
mean,
of the year, no.